Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to our LVC for the subject of CMA. So, good morning, Abhisha, Bhumika, Priyanka, Yukta. Welcome, all of you all. And I hope everybody was present in the first lecture where we discussed the very basics of costing, how costing is used in day-to-day life, the basics of costing, the basic concepts of cost, and most important, what is the ideology of costing? That is, how costing is used in the real life. Thereafter, you all had the first topic in costing, which was material cost. If you remember my cost sheet topic, I'd explained that for the purpose of costing, all the expenses, firstly, cost means the expense, and all the expense are classified into material, labor, and expenses for resources. And then within each, material is divided into direct, indirect, employees divided into direct, indirect, and expenses for resources is divided into direct, indirect. All the indirect are together called as overheads. And the direct element, material, direct employee cost, and direct expenses together are called as prime cost. So this is how entire costing is developed. This is how entire costing is done. Now, if you remember, I had also explained what is the difference between direct and indirect. Those costs which you can easily trace, identify, link with your product. If I have to explain it even simpler language, those expenses where you can say that yes, this much of material I have used in this product, this much of labor has worked on this product, this much of rent or light bill or any other expense for resource is used for this product. If you can identify this, if you can precisely calculate this, then that expense is direct. Now, simple. See, now we are on a very technical part, but also very interesting and not so difficult part. Everything technical is not difficult if you try to link it with your day-to-day life. So I always give basic day-to-day life examples so that we can understand even a technical subject or concept like costing. So we took the example of dinner. Now, when you are doing costing of dinner, dinner is your cost object. And whether you are doing costing of one plate of dinner or for the entire family's dinner, that becomes the cost unit. Now, when you are doing costing, if you can measure how much quantity of rice, if you can measure how much quantity of vegetables, if you can measure how much or how many hours of the cooking work is going into that particular work, then all these expense becomes direct material, direct labor. But expenses like depreciation of all the kitchen equipments or the electricity, if I cannot precisely measure how much is required for yesterday's dinner for which I am doing the costing, if I cannot measure it precisely, ultimately I will measure it, ultimately I will charge it using some averaging, but I cannot do it precisely, then that is what is overheads. So basically, cost is made up of three main components: material cost, employee cost, and the expenses for various facilities. And these are then subdivided into direct, indirect, direct, indirect. So broadly, you have six types of cost with having three major components or elements: material, employee, and expenses for resources. I hope till this point, whatever we discussed in the previous session, linked with whatever you studied in material, is understood. So before I start with today's deliberation, I would ask that if you all have any questions with respect to whatever we have studied till now, we will first take up those questions and then we will proceed further. Yes, very good morning, Rishabh, Mohammad Parvez, Sunil, Rosie, Anup Kumar, Ayushi, Rajveer, Kiran, Tanu, So, very good morning to all of you all. Now, let me first answer your doubts, questions, if any, till this point, so that whatever we are discussing will make more sense to everyone. The costing, FM, these are technical subjects, but at the same time, they are very interesting. And these subjects you can understand by developing these subjects step by step. Nobody can claim that they understand or they have understood entire costing in one go. It will be a process whereby you'll understand the entire thing step by step as you study every topic, as you study every chapter, every concept. Slowly and steadily, what you studied in the previous session also gets more clearer. This you will realize as we proceed. So I want you all to be active. I want you all to keep on asking questions so that we are always connected and the concepts are getting developed. Now, I have first question from Rosie. She is asking what are the items attributable. See, Rosie, these are all technical terms. I have simplified this. When I explained you cost in the previous lecture, I had simply said shift these words with simpler words. If you want to understand any concept, now try to convert it in the language which is more comfortable to you. It may be English only, but maybe simplified words, or it may be your own language. Now, when I'm saying items attributable, it is very heavy. So I have changed this attributable word with easily identifiable. And this is what I was trying to explain, that what are attributable items? These are the items which are related to a particular product. So when you are doing costing of any product, any service, what cost you will charge to that product to find out the total cost are only those expenses which you can link, which you can relate, which you can say, yes, this expense I have required for this particular product or service. Only those expense you will add in the cost to find out the total cost. Those are the items which are attributable. That is what is the basic meaning definition of cost which we discussed. Rosie, I hope I could answer you. See, Priyanka, we will be taking industry examples. And let me tell you, my example of dinner was not, you cannot say that it will be not applicable. Even in industry, the same example applies. You take food industry, you find out any food item. Like I'll give a simple example. You are going by train, and in train you order food. They charge you rupees 180 per plate. How did they find out the cost? So we did costing of one of the practical cases only. When I asked you to do costing of your dinner, it wasn't an example which is not an industry example. But I took it, so that you can easily connect to it. See, if I give you example of some industrial product, like we have HAL near my the place where I stay, we have HAL. I don't know whether you all have heard about HAL. It is the one which is engaged. It is a government entity based in manufacturing of fighter planes. Now, if I take that example, even though I have personally visited there and done their costing, even if I take that example, it may not be possible for you to understand it. So during my college days, we were taken there on industrial visit and we were made to understand their costing practically. So we have even done it as a student, but taking those examples directly may not be connecting, right? No, Mohan, it is not Bangalore, it is Nashik's plant I'm talking about. So don't worry, whatever examples we are taking is covering the real life examples only. The only difference is they are taken at a smaller scale, which is something which you can see around you. And I always believe for understanding concepts, you should be able to connect to these things with what is happening around you. Because what is happening around you, you can see. What is happening around you, you can experience and feel. And once you link your subject, not only costing, any subject, with things which are happening around you, understanding the technical, most difficult concept becomes easy. Fine. So, with this basic background, let me proceed with our today's deliberation. In your previous two sessions, you studied the first major element of cost, which is material. Now understand this. Whenever you are doing a product costing, one of the major components out of total cost is material. However, this may not be the case when you are doing costing of services or costing of any activity. In service sector or in any other activity, maybe material would be very nominal and the other two elements like employee or like expenses on resources would be higher. Taking a simple example, when I as started accountant is providing my consultancy services to various clients and I am doing costing of my consultancy services, in my service, a major element is of employee and material and overheads or the cost for resources is very nominal. So this is what we have to understand, that depending upon what we are costing, one of these items will be having a major dominant component or part, and the other items may not be that dominant. Is this fine? So now, labor is such an element which is present generally in all types of goods and services, whether it is whether it is costing of any manufactured item, whether it is costing of any service, or whether it is costing of any activity. In all these things, labor is always present because generally without labor, hardly you can perceive anything which could be made or which could be delivered. Now, when we are talking about labor, we have to first understand some very important characteristics about labor cost, which is not present in the other items, material and expenses for resources. What is that characteristics, teacher? Labor, since it is related to human, it is affected by behavioral issues. What is this behavioral issue? If a labor is highly motivated, he will deliver more output in the same span of time which he is working. And opposite to this, where the labor is emotionally, psychologically down, disturbed, his output in the same period would be very low. So what we understand from this is, from this we understand that in labor, pay attention, in labor, the element of managing, controlling is very significant. In material, that is not the case. In material, if you input 1 kg, you will get somewhere around 1 kg or slightly less because of loss. But in labor, if a labor is working for 10 hours, the output from labor A, from B, from C, from D would be different. And the output of same labor A today, next month, after 6 months, after 1 year would be different. This is where, as a cost accountant, we have to understand that labor is such a component which can always be used to improve the productivity, improve the output, and how that will be done? That will be done by proper motivation, by proper supervision, and by ensuring that you have the right person at the right place. So these are some important aspects or features of labor element of cost, which is not present in the other elements. Now, whenever you study material, labor, or overhead chapter, that is, whenever you study these three components of cost, in all these three chapters, material, labor, and overheads, we always study three aspects. One is the accounting and procedure, the controlling, and the charging. And the fourth aspect that you'll study is some special cases. So when you studied material, you would have studied all these aspects. Like when we talk about accounting and procedure in material, you would have studied various accounting related documents like GRN, MRN, then your BOM. All those was related to accounting and procedure. Then in material, you studied the control aspect, which was material control, inventory control, and all those techniques. Then you studied the material charging aspect, where you studied how to compute per unit material cost. And you studied also FIFO, LIFO, which was for charging this material cost to the product using one of these methods of costing, which is FIFO, LIFO, average, etc. Similarly, in labor also we study these three things. Similarly, in overheads we'll study these three things. However, from exam perspective, the weightage to these things in each chapter changes. Like in material, from exam perspective, major thrust is on the control aspect, where you study the inventory control chapter. So majority of your exam questions from the material chapter is from the control aspect, specifically the inventory control, where you study all types of techniques like EOQ, stock level, two bin system, etc. Whereas when we come to labor, in labor, a major thrust is on C and D when it comes to exam perspective. C is charging of labor cost. D is some special cases of labor. So every chapter has different relevance from the perspective of exams. However, since we are studying this subject for the first time, we need to understand everything so that we have a proper in-depth understanding of the topic, and all these are internally related. So let us start with the labor or the employee cost chapter. So firstly, I'm sure everybody has understood this first basic thing, that when you talk about labor, it is about you and me. Labor cost is related to the human element. So whenever any work involves human element, whether in the form of a worker, whether in the form of a supervisor or a manager or even a director, for that matter, even a partner in a partnership firm, whatever they are doing, that is what is the employee element or the labor element of the cost. So whatever remuneration you are giving to the worker, to the supervisor, to the manager, to the director, and even to the owners or partners who are devoting their time in the working of the business, that is the labor component. Now comes the first very important aspect of labor, that is accounting and procedure. This part of the labor is important in the exam from the theory point of view. Now, when I have to do charging, when I have to charge any cost, how will I charge any cost? Let me first explain you that. In my first session, I explained you this concept, which is cost sheet. What was cost sheet? Cost sheet was a systematic presentation of the cost. And if you remember broadly, in cost sheet, we had direct material, we had direct labor, we had direct expense. Total of this was called as prime cost. And then we added all the indirect items. Indirect items together are called as overheads, but then they are further broken up into production overheads, administration overheads, selling and distribution overheads. Now, when I'm doing costing, I prepare this cost sheet, and in this format and sequence, I find out my total cost. Please remember, when I'm using this format of costing, it is mainly a costing which is dealing with a product or a job or a batch. That is, this particular format is mainly applicable for manufacturing industries. It is not applicable for service sector. For service sector, the cost sheet format is different, that we'll study. Now, the point is, how do you do costing of all of these elements of cost? How do you find out the amount to be charged here, the amount to be taken here, so that it gets added and it becomes my total cost? Finding out this amount is the main challenge. Now for this, please understand, student, today what I'm explaining right now in next 5 minutes is the core of costing. We understood this cost sheet broadly in my first session, rather the first session of this particular subject also. Now today we are going into more details. Now, to do costing, that is to find out this amount of each element of cost that is incurred, that is attributable to your product, etc., you require two things. When you multiply these two things, you will get the total amount of each element of cost. Now, what are these two things? The first is the physical quantity of each of these elements. Like for material, it would be the kgs. liters, or units of material that are consumed for this product. For labor, it would be the time of labor, maybe measured in hours or minutes, as the case may be. For direct expense, it may be units of the expense. And for overheads, we will study later, so I'm not going deeper into overheads right now. The physical quantities for the time being called as base. What is base? We'll understand later. So understand this, students. For doing costing, you require two things. First, the physical quantity of each element of cost that you have used in that product. Like again, I take the dinner example, which is very simple to understand and relate. Whatever we cooked in dinner, if I'm talking about material, the rice, the dal, the wheat flour, we have to identify how much quantity of each of these material items was consumed. First, you identify the quantity and then you multiply it by the charging price. So if let us say you're talking about rice, which you'll measure in kgs, you find out how much kgs or grams of rice you consumed for your dinner and you multiply it by the per kg price of rice. But it is not the per kg purchase price, it is the per kg charging price. Now, if somebody asks me, sir, what is charging price? Give me 2 minutes more. After that, I'll explain what is charging price. Similarly, when I have to charge the labor cost to my product, job, or anything, even like in our profession, when I have to charge to a client my fees, how I will charge? I will first identify how much of my time or my office or my employee, whoever is working on that project, how much of that particular resources time will be consumed for this particular client's work, whatever we are doing, multiplied by the charging price. Now we will identify our time for that particular project, that particular assignment in hours, and then multiplied by the charging price, which will be per hour rate. Same, if I'm talking about direct expense, the most common example of direct expense is royalty. So where my product is produced under some brand name for which I have to pay royalty, I will find out what is my charging rate of royalty per unit, that is behind every piece which I'm manufacturing, how much royalty I have to pay, and whatever pieces I have manufactured, I'll multiply it by the per unit royalty rate. So I think you can understand from this how I will be doing costing. Always connect costing with the dinner example. It will be very easy to understand anything in costing. So right now we are understanding a very important part. Technically, if you ask me what I'm trying to explain is I'm trying to explain something from the charging part, because in order to understand the other aspects like accounting, etc., you have to first understand the charging part. So any cost, whatever you want to add, now add is replaced by the word charge. So whenever you are doing costing, we will not say add, we'll use the word charge. So any cost that you want to charge, that you want to add in this cost sheet to find out your total cost, how that cost will be calculated? It will be calculated by identifying or finding out two things. One is the physical quantity of each element of cost that is used for that particular goods or service, and then multiplying it by the charging price. Here for overheads, the charging price is called as ORR. Right now, I'm not explaining anything from overheads because then we will deviate from our today's topic. Student, this is the most important concept of costing, and everything in costing is linked with this. So firstly, I'd ask if anybody has any questions relating to what I have. Mosam is asking, sir, please upload. I have uploaded beta class notes. Don't worry, you will get it on the portal. Charging means what we are going to charge for product. See, charging means, Nisha, charging is a technical word used for costing. Charging means that let us say I'm incurring 1 lakh of cost in running my business. Let us say for labor, the salaries which I'm paying in my office is 1 lakh. Now, you come to me with your assignment, you want some audit done of your business. Now, when I'll be doing audit of your business, again, let us say Abhisha is coming, she wants some return to be filed. Mosam is coming, she wants some consultancy. Now, all these are my output services. I'll use the word product, though these are services. So these are all my output products. Now, when you all come for different work, I have to charge you my fees. What is charging? Charging means finding out how much cost I'm incurring for your work out of my total cost. So that much cost I will put against your name. And once out of my total cost, I put against your name each of the costs which I have incurred for your assignment. After I do total of that, I'll find out the total cost. So charging word means calculating out of my total cost how much is related to your work, and then calculating like what I'm showing right now in the cost sheet, finding out that cost, calculating that cost, and putting that cost in the cost sheet in your name. That for your audit, this is my labor, material, and other costs. Then for return work, this is my labor, material, and other costs. So that I can make a total and find out the total cost, add my profit margin, and tell you the price. So charging is identifying the cost out of total expenses which I'm incurring, that portion of cost which is related to you. Calculating that, adding that, finding out total is what is charging. Abhisha is asking, sir, how can we charge price? How can we get charging price? Abhisha, this is the next point I'm going to explain. Kiran beta, ORR is the charging rate for overheads. Please don't ask me what it is right now. I already said while writing that anything relating to overheads, like I have written two words, base and ORR, I will not explain now. But again, in simple words, base is the physical quantity and ORR is the charging price of overheads. What it is, that we'll study in the overhead chapter. Yes, Smriti, you will come to know what is the difference between charging price and purchase price when I'll explain charging price. Mohan is asking what is royalty. See, in today's world, majority of goods and services are being sold under some brand name. I'll give you a simple example. In your city, you have McDonald's. In your city, you have Naturals. In your city, you have this Cafe Coffee Day. In your city, you have Pizza Hut. Now, all these are brands. Interestingly, what do you think? The original owner of this Cafe Coffee Day is running that cafe shop in your city? Answer is no. Whether the original McDonald's is running the shop in your city, the restaurant in your city? Answer is no. Somebody from your city is running that particular business. That business is under a franchisee model. What is a franchisee model? Let us say you want to run McDonald's in your business. I am the original McDonald's from US. You will contact me. I will say, okay, I'm giving you franchisee of my business. Franchisees, I'm giving you the rights to use my brand name to put McDonald's on the name of the shop. Plus, I will be giving you all my products, how to prepare those products. I'll share all those things, and using all this, you will prepare and cook the food and serve it there. Now, since whatever you are doing is under my brand name, I will charge you something for using this brand name, something for using my technical information. That is what is royalty. So today, for any branded product, when that branded product, it may be goods or service, is being sold using somebody else's brand name, that is where you have to pay them royalty. Fine. Now, so students, what I'm trying to explain is a very critical aspect in costing. So how do you find out the cost that you have to charge to every product? You find out by finding out two things. One is the physical quantity of each element of cost that you have used in that product. See, when I'm saying product, it is a generic word I'm using for goods and service. So identify the physical quantity and then multiply it by the charging price. Now I come to what is charging price and how it is different from purchase price. Now again, let me take example of dinner and let me take example of material, because you can see material, you can understand material. So in my dinner, I consumed one of the items, which is rice. Now, I also know how much of rice was consumed. Let us say in yesterday's dinner, we consumed 500 grams of rice. This you can very easily identify. how much of rice, how much of dal, how much of wheat flour, how much of different vegetables you are using in the dinner, that you can easily identify, and that is why it is direct. See, this is the difference between direct and indirect. If I can identify this easily, how much I'm using, it is direct cost. So rice, dal, all these are direct material. Why? Because you can easily identify how much of the quantity of each of these items you have used. Now, let me take example of rice. So one thing I know about rice is in my yesterday's dinner, I have consumed 500 grams of rice. In that dinner, 500 grams of rice was used. Now, once I get the physical quantity, to find out the value of this rice that has to be charged here, that has to be added here, I need to multiply this physical quantity by the price. Now, how do you find out this charging price? Charging price is found out by a formula. I call it as the mother formula in costing. Why I'm calling it as the mother formula? Because it is the most basic formula or the basic concept of costing, which you will use throughout costing. You study material, you study labor, you study overheads, you study process costing, you study any chapter in costing. This formula, this logic is used everywhere. How do you find out the per unit price at which you will charge? So the answer is, in numerator, you take the total cost minus scrap value of normal loss. In denominator, you take the units minus normal loss units. This is the mother formula. Now, for rice, what is this total cost? This total cost is, I purchase rice at some price. Let us say I have purchased the 50 kg katta of rice. So I know how much price I have paid for purchasing. Let us say for 50 kgs katta, the price was per kg, it was rupees 25. So this is my purchase cost. But this is not the only cost you incur. Whenever you are purchasing, you also incur transport cost of bringing it to your house. See, same thing applies to industry. Plus, maybe you incurred some cost on loading, unloading. Plus, over and above this price, there was some packing cost that was incurred. There was some duties and taxes that was charged. Plus, so many expenses, so many other expenses that you incurred for bringing the rice to your house, to your factory. This is the total cost. Now, you do costing of anything. You want to find out the charging price of anything. The first thing that will come in numerator is all expenses which are linked to that particular element. Like here, if I'm saying rice, purchase cost, transport cost, loading, unloading, packing, duties, taxes, and every other cost which is linked to rice. Now, I want to find out the per unit price of rice. Now I divide this total cost by units. Now, what are these units? First is how much I have ordered. I have ordered 50 kgs. So when I'm bringing or purchasing rice, I'm ordering and I'm buying 50 kgs katta, which is the total requirement that I have. Now this 50 kgs, I may be having some loss. What is this loss? That when I order this 50 kgs, by the time it reaches me, there is some loss in the form of wastage. There is some loss in transit. Now see, from product to product, this will vary. Some products may have a loss, some material elements may have loss, some may not have loss, but I'm taking a general example. So let us say I expect that when I'm buying and bringing this rice, even though I have ordered 50 kgs, I will not receive 2 kgs because that much would be lost in transit, in handling it, loading, unloading it. That much of rice would be lost, that much of rice would be wasted. So this is my normal loss. Normal loss is that portion of loss which you expect, which you can estimate, which you know right from beginning that this loss is going to happen. That is normal loss. So effectively, now understand this logically. All this cost which I'm incurring, which I have taken in the numerator, is actually for 50 kgs. But it is a general practice. It is a general you can say trend of the industry, that out of this 50, some portion of it would be lost either in transportation, either in handling, either in storing, either in loading, unloading. So I know even though I'm incurring cost for 50 kgs, I will not get 50 kgs to use. Out of 50, some portion of the cost would get lost, would get wasted. It may be by way of evaporation, it may be by way of mishandling, it may be by way of small petty thefts. There are so many reasons for this loss. Whatever loss is expected, whatever loss I know for sure this is going to happen, nobody can control it. That is what is normal loss. I will reduce that from the quantity. So for me, understand, see, you have to think like a businessman to understand this concept so that it is very easy. For me, this total cost in numerator is not for 50 kgs, it is for 48 kgs because I know by incurring cost for 50 kgs, what I'm going to have in hand for using is 48 kgs. So as a rational businessman, I will divide the total cost by this 48 kgs. Now here, one more element which is there in this mother formula is scrap value. If let us say this normal loss, which is going to be lost, wasted, if that can be sold for some nominal price, then that is my scrap value of this normal loss, which I will deduct. It is not necessary everything, every loss can be sold. So let us say in my example, this loss is a complete loss, not saleable. So the scrap value is nil. In some other case, in different industry, the material which is getting wasted can be sold as scrap. So if you get some nominal scrap value of this normal loss, which you are expecting, that scrap value which you are expecting to get will be deducted over here. In my case, there is no scrap value of this, so it is nil. Now, remember students, this is the mother formula for finding out per unit cost of anything in costing. Now here I am taking example of material. Same thing if I do of labor, which we are going to study in this chapter, the calculation remains same. Same thing when you'll go for overheads in the next chapter, calculation is same. Same thing when you'll go to other chapters like process costing, batch costing, job costing, wherever you have to find out the per unit cost, the per unit charging price, the per unit rate of any material, labor, or even the final product. This is the mother formula which will be applicable. So those who ever wanted to understand charging price in detail, I hope you all have understood. I've purposely taken example of material. Reason one, you can easily identify, you can see the material. So that is the reason. And second, because I have recently studied the material. Rosie is asking, sir, what in denominator? But a denominator is it is quantity of that particular item minus the normal loss that you're expecting. What is written in denominator? So that is what I'm explaining, Rosie. What is written in denominator? I have written units minus normal loss units. I've explained just now. So how much units of rice I'm ordering? 50 kgs, out of which I'm expecting 2 kgs is getting lost. This is what I've written in the denominator. So denominator is about the quantity. Sir, how to calculate scrap value? Medha, beta, it is so simple. What is scrap value? If I'm, let us say I'm into furniture manufacturing. My raw material is wood pieces. Now, when I'm using this wood, see, even in your house, when some furniture work would have been done, you bring the 8x4 sheets of wood, which is called as ply. You cut that ply as per the shape of your furniture. When you're doing this, some part of that ply cut pieces are left out. These cut pieces you can sell in the market on the basis of kg. Same thing happens with so many other material, like even in cloth industry. From cloth, when we make these shirts or dresses, some portion of the cut pieces of the cloth is left out, which can be sold in the market for some very nominal price, maybe per kg or something. That is how you find out the scrap value. Sir, can we expect scrap value in employee? But I already mentioned scrap value may not be available everywhere. In employee, scrap value cannot be there because employee, the quantity of employee, which now I'm going to explain now, is the hours. If my hours are wasted, there is no scrap value for that. So students, please be more practical with the subject. Practical means I'm always saying from my day one lecture, try to relate it with something around you. The moment you relate it with something around you, you'll understand it. You will not get confused, or you'll not have some vague understanding of the subject. Now, I come to labor. In labor, the same other formula applies. So, what is total cost of labor? Total cost of labor is whatever salary plus other benefits I am giving to labor. So, for labor, how do I find out my charging rate? I find out cost to company upon hours minus normal loss hours. Total hours minus normal loss hours. Now, what is cost to company in case of labor? So, when I'm making payment to labor of wages, this will study in income tax salary chapter also. So, when I make payment to labor, I have to give the labor basic wages, plus I have to give the labor different types of allowances, plus I have to give the labor different types of facilities, which is called as perquisites. What are these facilities? I may have to give the labor some place to stay. I may have to give the labor some facility for transportation, that is for coming and going to my factory. I may have to provide the labor with food in the factory, that is the lunch, the tea. So these are all facilities benefits, which is called as perquisites. Plus, besides this, I have to make many statutory payments for the labor, like Provident Fund, ESIC. Now, these are all the expenses which I am incurring related to labor. So, what is my mother formula? My mother formula says you have to take total cost in the numerator. So, total cost is whatever expenses you are incurring for that element. You have to consider everything. So, for labor element, I'm incurring all these different types of cost. This becomes my numerator. I hope this is clear. Now, in the denominator, so let us say this is my cost of labor to the company, which includes all these different elements of labor cost. And all this cost I'm incurring, let us say this numerator is for a month. So I find out my labor cost for a month. Now I find out the total hours of this labor for a month. Now, how do I find out the total labor hours? Let us say in my office, I have 10 employees. So this labor cost, which I am taking in the numerator, is, let us say, of 10 employees. These 10 employees work every day for 8 hours because that is the office timing. So they have to be present for 8 hours. And in a month, roughly, they are present for 26 days. So the total hours that I have of my employees in a month is this: 10 employees available every day for 8 hours multiplied by 26 days in a month. So since in the numerator I am taking cost for a month, obviously in denominator I'll take the hours for a month. If numerator I am taking cost for a year, denominator the hours will be for a year. Now, minus this. What is the normal loss in case of labor? When we'll study further labor, you will get to know it is called as idle hours. What are idle hours? Now, please understand this practically. Try to visualize scenario of any business, any factory, any office. Even though my office timings or factory timings are 8 hours, but you all know that there would be some time for which the labor will not be able to work. The labor will not be doing any productive activity, and that is expected. There is nothing wrong. For example, when the labor reaches the factory, some time is lost in changing the uniform. Some time is lost. When they start a machine, the machine takes some time to get ready for production. So some time is required for setting up the machine, for the machine warming up. Again, that much time there is no production happening. Now, after all this, when the machine starts, machine is ready for working. Now the labor will actually start working on the machine. After it has worked for some hour, again there will be a break. It may be a tea break. Again, after working for some hours, there may be a lunch break. Again, after working for some hours in different types of machines, you require to keep the machine idle. You have to give some time to the machine for the purpose of cooling down. Now, these are the different hours where the machine will not be working. These are sometimes where you will not be doing any productive work. The labor will be remaining idle, and that is expected, that is bound to happen. Such time is what is called as idle time. which is the normal loss of labor. Now, let us say out of these 8 hours in a day, I identify that 1 hour is going to be wasted every day. Let us not use the word wasted, but 1 hour the labor will be idle for tea break, lunch break, and all these reasons. So 10 employees multiplied by 1 hour each, multiplied by 26 days. So this is my normal loss of labor. Now, using the same other formula, we did the costing in case of material here. Same formula is applied for doing costing of labor here. Only the elements are changing, only the names are changing, but the mother formula, the mother concept remains the same. That is why I'm using the word mother formula, because that is the originator of all other concepts or all other workings in labor, in costing. So this is how I will find out. Now understand what is this charging price. So in numerator, let us say here I am having 25 lakhs as the total labor cost. Denominator, I'm not going by the actual working, so don't check it on the calci. Just roughly, let us say this is 2000 hours minus this is 200 hours, for example. So what effectively is happening? I am spending rupees 25 lakhs every month on the labor in different forms like basic allowances, giving them facilities, making statutory payments. And for this 25 lakhs, I'm getting the productive work done of 18 hours. So in other words, for me, 25 lakhs is for 1800 hours. Then when I divide this, I will get my labor cost per hour. And this labor cost per hour is my charging price for labor. Now, let us say I get some audit assignment for which the hours required are 5 hours. I multiply this 5 hours by this charging rate, which I've just calculated. So when I multiply 5 hours by this charging rate, I will get the labor cost, which I'm spending, which I'm incurring over here for the purpose of this particular work. And this is how I will do labor costing. So understand this, for any costing, you require two things. First is the physical quantity, which may be units, kgs, hours, and the second thing you require is the charging price of that particular component. Charging price of anything will be calculated by this mother formula. Entire costing is based on this one single formula. Wherever you want to find out per unit price, this is the mother formula. Now you can ask me questions. If you have understood this, I will say you have understood the most critical and the most important part of costing, and many workings, many concepts in costing are revolving around this. Rajveer asks normal loss means if they don't work for some hours. Yes, I already explained, Rajveer, what is this normal loss for labor. We call it as idle time in case of labor. Amod, sir, while proportionating or identifying per unit cost, would we add payment for non-productive hours? See, beta, when I've taken cost of 8 hours full, Amod, in my numerator, I've taken the payment for entire month for entire 8 hours. So by default, I've even covered the cost of non-productive hours, because when I'm spending that much wages, when I'm making the payment of salary, I make payment of salary for entire 8 hours, which includes non-productive hours. So by default, it is there. Mohan is saying S. S means what? Yes. I don't know. Manisha, can we assume opportunity cost in case of labor? 100%, Manisha. Recall my first lecture. In cost, you will consider both the actual cost that you are paying, like for outsiders, I'm paying them actual wages. But at the same time, since I am also devoting my time in my business, so whatever is my opportunity cost, if you remember, we had discussed this in the previous session, that cost will include even the opportunity cost. Because cost means what? Go back to the basics. Cost means the expenses which are attributable. What is attributable? Today only somebody asked at the start. Attributable means which is related to that work. So when my time is related to that work, when I have to devote my time for doing that work, even my cost has to be considered. But I am not drawing any salary. Then what will be my cost? My cost is the opportunity cost. You're perfectly right. Dharani is saying, sir, if the hours that are lost are abnormal, will this be calculated? Very good question. See, students, here in this entire example, I'm saying normal, normal, normal. What if there is some abnormal loss? Please understand. Again, go back to the previous lecture. I had also mentioned one very important thing. See, even if you're not there in previous lecture, don't worry. Anyways, I'm repeating, just I'm linking it with previous. So whoever was present, not only physically, but mentally also, they will be able to connect it. I had mentioned one very important point about costing, that costing is a pre-activity. Costing is done on estimated basis. So here, when I'm showing you all these workings, please remember all these entire costing, this entire left-hand side cost sheet and the right-hand side working part, these are done before the start of the year. Like when I have to find out my charging price, this charging price for material labor, I'll calculate long before, because I have to charge it even before doing the work. When some client comes to me, I have to first quote him the price, then only he will give me the work. So for doing this, we do all these calculations on estimated basis. Now, once you understand this, that costing is a pre-activity, it is done on estimated basis. Now you'll understand whether we will deduct in the denominator only normal loss or even abnormal loss. I hope now you'll get the answer. The answer is we can deduct only normal loss, because at the start or even before doing any work, if I'm calculating this on estimated basis, what I can estimate, what I can expect is only what will happen normally. Abnormal things we cannot expect, that we come to know once it happens. So once it happens, after that only I'll come to know, and then I will treat it in costing. So Dharni, I hope I have answered you. Shivam, sir, will the scrap value be nil in case of labor? Beta, Shivam, you now tell me, why should I answer this question? Please be logical. In labor, the time of labor which is lost in lunch break, in changing over of the uniform, or in waiting for the machine to get ready. Like let us say, even in our office, when the staff comes in the morning, they have to first put on each and every computer. Then they have to start the server. 10 minutes are lost. That is my normal idle time at the start of the day. Now you tell me, will there be any scrap value? Can I sell this as scrap? Answer is no. So that is why in my formula or calculation which I have just shown, I have not taken any scrap value. So students, please be logical. Don't be very much literal with the wordings. That is a mother formula. Now you have to apply that formula to each case. Yukta. Sir, by applying this mother formula, we will calculate cost per unit. Yes, exactly. Cost per unit for each item, for material, for labor, for expense. Later on, Yukta, when you find out the total cost also, again for finding out per unit price of your final product also, you'll use the same mother formula. Numerator total cost divided by normal units of this product that is produced, you will get per unit cost of this product. So for anything in costing Yukta, whenever you want to find out per unit, this mother formula applies. So Priya is asking, where does the opportunity cost go in the cost sheet? Beta, opportunity cost is the labor cost. Now here in the labor cost, when I'm finding out basic wages, allowances, perquisite, if the employee is an outsider where I'm actually paying him basic allowances, that is the actual labor cost I've considered. And when I'm finding out labor cost of my work, all these figures which I'm taking are the opportunity cost figures. So I'm finding out my charging price, Supriya, using the opportunity cost only. That had I not worked in my firm, had I worked somewhere else, what is the payment I would have got from that place? I will add those costs over here to find out my charging price. I hope this is clear. Rajveer is asking an example of abnormal loss in employees. But abnormal loss example in employees is, in case of employees, what is the loss? The loss is the hours which the employee is not working, which we call over here as idle. Now, what is normal idle time or what is normal loss in employees? Normal loss in employees is that the hours when the employee is not working and which is expected, like I gave you example of lunch break, tea break, machine warming up time. What will be abnormal loss? Let us say in a factory, suddenly the power goes, there is a power failure, and for 1 hour, everything is stopped. Now, this was unexpected because this is an unexpected power failure. So, that 1 hour which is lost, Rajveer, will become the abnormal loss. Like we had COVID, suddenly everything was under lockdown. So, it was shut down. That is again an abnormal loss. So, what is the loss in case of employee? It is the employee time for which the employee is not working. Now, when that is expected, you know that this much time will be wasted of employee when he will not be doing productive work. It is normal. When that same idle time for which the employee is not working was unexpected. It happened suddenly. That will be abnormal loss. Rajveer. Rosie, beta, what is opportunity cost? I am working in my own business. I am not making payment to myself, right? But we consider my cost also in costing. This is we discussed previous lecture also and today also. But how do I find out my price? How much cost I should consider for myself? For that, we take opportunity cost. What is the opportunity cost concept in economics? It is my value, which I will get had I not worked in my own business, but I would have worked somewhere else. So I try to find out how much value I will get working somewhere else. That is the cost which I will consider here for my labor. That is my opportunity cost. I hope everything up to this point is clear. Supriya saying, but opportunity cost related to storage of material will not be included in calculating charging of material price. But Supriya, opportunity cost of everything is included. Like you are saying, the opportunity cost related to storage of material. What is the opportunity cost related to storage of material? It is the interest cost on the amount of stock which you are carrying. Now try to recall, Supriya, in material chapter which you have already studied, we have studied a concept called as carrying cost, which is generally given as a percentage. This carrying cost is made up of three components. One is the storage cost, that is the renting cost. Second is this interest cost only, which you are calling as opportunity cost. So Supriya, in entire costing, whether it is material, labor, or anything, wherever there is cost, it may be your real cost or it may be your opportunity cost, which we are assuming both costs will be included. So, Supriya, I hope I answered you how even for material, what you are asking, storage of material, where we have included opportunity cost in carrying cost, the interest component is included. So the opportunity cost of storage of material is also included. Right, beta? We are having really good discussion. I'm sure by answering your questions directly, the things are getting more clear. See, the more you are clear with these basic concepts, it will be easy to understand the further concepts in entire costing. Plus, not only easy, your understanding will be so perfect, so lucid that now you study anything or you solve anything, many of the questions which otherwise students get while studying or while solving, you will not get because you have understood the subject from the core. So opportunity cost in case of labor. See, opportunity cost in case of labor, Anubhav, is cost of the owner. Because see, firstly understand what is opportunity cost. When somebody is working in his own firm, he is not making payment to himself. When he is not making payment to himself, how do you find out his cost? You find out his cost by taking his opportunity cost. And what is my opportunity cost? As I've been explaining, had I not worked in my business, had I worked somewhere outside, the price which I would have got over there, the salary or whatever payment which I would have got over there, that is my opportunity cost. Fine? Super. Student, just give me 2 minutes. Just a small 2 minutes break. Okay. Now, once you've understood this basic component, firstly of this cost sheet and then of the charging price, now we'll understand the other aspects relating to our topic of labor. Now in labor, this is what is the formula for finding out the charging price of labor, where in numerator you will take all the cost related to employee, and in denominator you will find out the total hours minus the normal loss, which is the normal idle time of labor, so that you will get your per hour charging price. Once you get this per hour charging price, you multiply this per hour charging price with the number of hours that you are going to devote to that particular work, so that you find out the total labor cost you have to charge to that particular product. Now remember one thing, it is not necessary that entire labor can be charged with one working. If you have different types of workers working on the particular product, that is the goods or services, you will charge each worker's labor cost separately. Like for material, where I'm using different material, rice also, dal also, and so many things, I will be doing this working separately for each item, because for everything, the quantity and the price would be different. Similarly, for labor also, where you are doing this costing, it is not necessary that this hours will be of all workers combined. I will be doing this costing separately for each type of workers, because every worker's hours and the charging price may be different. So even though I'm showing it as one name direct labor, it does not mean it will be only one working. The same working will be repeated for each type of material. It will be repeated for each type of labor. Is this fine? So what we just discussed in detail is what is my effective labor rate. It is also the labor charging rate. So since we have discussed this, let me just take you to that so that we complete that theory point right now itself. See, so how do you charge labor? You find out the labor charging rate, which is also called as the effective labor hour rate. And how do you find out that? In numerator, you have taken total labor cost to company. In denominator, you have taken the productive hours, normal productive hours. Now, what is this numerator total labor cost to company? Total labor cost to company is the different components of salary that you are going to make payment to the workers, which may be the basic salary, the bonus incentives, allowance, facilities, everything. Whatever you are going to pay or whatever you are going to incur for the employee will be your numerator. This becomes the total labor cost to the company. Kindly keep yourself muted, students. Second, net wages, I'm right now not going into, we'll come to net wages later on. Then in the denominator, you have the normal productive hours. What is normal productive hours? You find out your total hours available, and from that you deduct the normal loss of employee. Now, what is the normal loss of employee? It is the normal idle time of employees. Now, how do we find out the total hours available of the employee? I just explained. You find out the hours per shift, which in my example was 8, multiplied by the number of shifts. I assume you have only one shift, multiplied by number of workers. In my example, it was 10, multiplied by number of days. Now, how do we find out number of days? By excluding the holidays and absenteeism. So I took it as 26 in a month. So this is how you'll get your total hours available of your employees in the denominator. From this, you deduct the normal loss, which is the normal idle time. What is this normal idle time made of? Made up of? It is the lunch break, tea break, time which the worker may spend from shifting from one job to another, the machine warming up time, machine setup time, normal rest time. All these are your normal idle time, which is the normal loss of labor. So this is how you find out the labor charging rate or the effective labor hour rate. Now, this effective labor hour rate or labor charging rate is used in costing to find out the labor cost that you charge. How do you find out this labor cost that you have to charge to a product? You find out two things. First is the hours, which is the physical quantity of labor, and you multiply this hours by the labor charging rate, which we just computed. Now, we understood how to compute the labor charging rate. Now we'll understand how to find out these hours. And that is where the accounting part of labor comes. So we require two things for finding out the labor cost. One is the physical quantity, which is hours in case of labor, and we multiply it by the labor charging rate. So now we understood the entire labor charging rate concept, how it is calculated, and it is calculated by the mother formula, which is applicable to everything, material, labor, overheads, and everything in costing. Wherever you have to find out the per unit or per hour rate, this same mother formula applies with variation in the components. Now we find out the physical quantity. So let me go back to my cost sheet. Now I'm going to explain you how to find out this. This is the hours which you are going to spend on this particular job. Technically, in the language of labor, it is called as labor hours booked on this job. So in technical language, these hours are called as labor hours booked. Now, what is this labor hours booked? How do you find out this? That is now what we are going to study. And that is what comes from the accounting part of labor. Now, in accounting, you will see there are two types of accounting. One is timekeeping, one is time booking. So from charging, in charging, we understood how to calculate the charging price. But for charging the labor cost in cost sheet, I require the hours also. These hours are called as hours booked. How do we find out these hours booked? For this, we have to go to the accounting and the procedural part of labor cost. Now pay attention, students. This particular, what is timekeeping and what is time booking? Timekeeping is maintaining attendance of employee. So what is timekeeping? Timekeeping is you maintain the record of in and out time of your employees, which we call as attendance. That is timekeeping. And what is time booking? Maintaining details of hours spent during a day. So time booking is, for example, timekeeping shows that you have come in the morning at 8 o'clock and the evening you are leaving at 4 o'clock. This will be shown by timekeeping. That is, it will be your attendance record, it will be your in time, out time. So 8 o'clock you are in, 4 o'clock you are out. This will be shown, or this data I will get from my timekeeping records. Now, how I have utilized this hours, how I spent this hours from 8 to 4, what all things I did during the day. This detail is called as time booking. So let us first understand the difference between timekeeping and time booking. So timekeeping is simply maintaining the attendance records. Time booking is going to more finer details of how you have spent this time, the time when you are present in my factory or in my office, how you have utilized or spent this time. Keeping the details of that is what is time booking. Let us go to the details of this. Now we start with timekeeping first. So timekeeping, as we studied, is recording the attendance, which is the in-out time. And what is the purpose or objective? That is why you should do timekeeping. The first main purpose is why we maintain attendance, so that we can calculate the total wages payable. By maintaining attendance, you'll come to know if any employee has worked overtime, so that you can pay him accordingly. Second, by maintaining attendance, you will also be able to find out if there is idle time and whether it is within normal limits or it is going abnormal, so that you can take corrective action. Then, most important, for the purpose of controlling that there is no wastage of labor, it is very important that you have proper attendance records. Most important again, for disciplinary purposes. See, if you do not maintain attendance, if you do not maintain in-out time, there will not be proper discipline. And then last is distribution of overheads, that we'll understand later when we'll go to overhead chapter. So what is the purpose of attendance? These are the purpose of attendance. Now, how is attendance maintained? So how is timekeeping done? Broadly, there are two ways of doing. One is manual The other is using machines or mechanical. Within manual, presently, this method is no more in use. The only method presently which is used is the attendance register, like how we had in school. The only difference was in school, we did not have the in time and out time recorded. It was only whether you are present or absent. In industries, the same attendance is done at the start when you are entering, they mark your in time, and it is again recorded at the end when you are leaving. Even in case of offices, if you have visited any office or after your inter completion when you join any officer's article, nowadays we are using mechanical devices like the thumb scanner or the eye scanner, or in bigger offices you have the card swipe. What they ask you to do is, once you come to the office, thumb scan, so that will record your in time, and when you are leaving the office, again thumb scan, that will record your outward time. So attendance will be recorded by manual method, and the manual method is maintaining attendance register. What is the mechanical method? The mechanical method, one is time recording clock. This time recording clock, again, this is no more applicable, is now replaced by the thumb scanner, or by using that swipe card machines. So now mechanical devices have evolved. Earlier, it was time recording clocks. In fact, even now in many industries where the labor is, there is a bigger quantity of labor and it is not possible to maintain that thumb scanner machine, they still have this time recording clocks. In time recording clocks, every worker is given one page, one small card. Whenever you come in the factory, these recording clocks are installed at different places. You have to go to a particular clock. In the clock, there is a space to insert your card. You insert your card, the clock will punch the time. So this is how time is recorded using time recording clocks. And now we all have seen thumb recorders, thumb scanners, and the swipe card machines. This is the most advanced way of recording your time. Simply you swipe the card, the machine will automatically record the time when you are in. Again, while leaving, you swipe the card, the machine will record the time when you are leaving. So in time or out time can be recorded using these mechanical devices. Priyanka is asking, sir, after knowing the time booking details, we get at some hours wasted on non-productive areas. Then how to overcome? Wait, Priyanka, we'll come to that point. How to overcome the hours wasted? That will be the part of controlling labor. We'll come to that. So first, we are understanding what are the various accounting and the procedural points in labor. So the first accounting part in labor is the timekeeping. I hope everybody has understood about timekeeping. So broadly, there are two methods of timekeeping. One is the manual method in which attendance register is used, and the other is the mechanical method where one of these things are used. Now we go to time booking. Now for time booking, what is time booking? It is keeping the details of the time which the worker has spent. Now this is how timekeeping details are maintained. Let me tell you, this is practically done, because after looking at this, many of you will feel, sir, this is academic, this is theoretical. No. If you join any industry, if you join any corporate office, this you will find there in many places. Now, in time booking, what record is maintained? The record is maintained of how you have spent your time. So this is the practical example. So let us say your in time is 8, your out time is 4. This is recorded by the time keeping department, and it is recorded by the timekeeping methods. Now, what will time booking record? The time booking will try to record how you have spent this time. So first, you came at 8, 8 to 8:10 was spent either in your changing of uniform, or you started setting up the machine, making the machine ready. Like I said, in the office, when we go to the office, our first 10 minutes are invested, or you can say lost, in starting the computers, connecting it to the server, connecting it to the cloud, so that we are ready for work, because our entire data is on server and on cloud. So first connecting it will be the first part of my 10 minutes. Now, this is obviously idle because there is no productive work done here. Then I start working. So let us say, if I'm taking example of a factory, you start producing the first, or you start doing the first work. That is, let us say job X, where you are supposed to do some lathe machine work. Now, this is a technical process. So you are doing some working on a product, which is job X. If I give you example of office, I've started working on the audit assignment. So the first thing which I did in the morning when I came to the offices, I started working on the audit assignment of client X. That took my time from 8:10 to 11. Now I will record. See, this is 10 minutes, which is lost, which is my idle time. This is 2 hours, 50 minutes. Now this will get booked. This will get linked to my job X. So it will be recorded in this timekeeping record that for doing job X, I spent 2 hours 50 minutes. Now, when I'm doing costing and I come to cost sheet here, if this job X, this is what is I'm doing costing of. I'm doing costing of job X. Now here for first labor, whoever has worked on job X, what I will do is, let us say it is my employee A who has worked on job X first. So I record his 2 hours, 50 minutes time here. Similarly, when employee B will work on job X, let us say employee A is my junior staff who has done the basic auditing. Employee B is the senior staff who will review the work of A, and then it will come to me. I will finalize the audit. So everybody's time will be booked on this particular job. What is booking? Booking means identifying and charging to that particular job. So when I will be doing costing of this particular job, which is the audit work of, let us say, client X, I will record the time of each type of employee who has worked, right from junior, then senior, and then myself. Everybody's charging rate I have separately calculated by the mother formula, which we just discussed. So whatever time everybody has spent, let us say he spent 1 hour. Let us say I spent 1 hour. This you will get details from the time booking of every employee. I am showing you time booking of employee A for the time being. Same thing will be done for employee B. Same thing will be done for myself. Same thing will be done for everybody working in the office or in the factory. So from their time booking records, you will identify how much time they have spent on this one assignment or this one work or job. That you will get from your time booking records. And multiplying it by the charging rate of each type of worker, you will get the total labor cost for this particular job. So coming back, then after doing this, what employee A did, employee A after this had taken a break. Again, this 30 minutes is my idle time. Then from 11:30 to 1, he worked on another assignment, another job, which is job 101. So this time, which will be roughly 1 hour 30 minutes, is now booked, is now allocated to this second job. After completing the second job, next 5 minutes, again, which is idle time, was required because he shifted after completing job 101 to job 102. While shifting from one work to another, again, there could be some time gap, which is lost in the shifting process. Then from 15 to 2:30, he worked on another assignment, which again is 1 hour 25 minutes. This much time he worked on some other assignment. Now, suddenly, unexpectedly, from 2:30 to 3, 30 minutes is power failure. Now, this is also idle, but since this was unexpected, this is my abnormal idle time. Then again, there was a small tea break, 15 minutes. This is again my normal idle time part. And then finally, for last 45 minutes, this employee worked on another job, which is job Y. Now, this happens in an industry also. This happens in the office also. In the office, one of my employee throughout the day will be working for different assignments for different time, or he or she may work entirely whole day for one assignment. That depends. Every day the work is different. On some days, you'll be working only on one assignment. But during the return period, audit period, throughout the day, you may be working for different assignments. This time booking will be recording the time which each employee has spent on each work. Plus, it will be reporting to me the idle time which is lost. Out of this, whatever is normal expected idle time, I'm okay. Wherever I find this, that something has happened abnormal, we will study later in detail. Once any type of abnormal idle time has happened, I will find whether it is controllable, uncontrollable. If it is controllable, I will take effort that this should not be repeated next time. So if let us say I find that this power failures, etc. is now happening regularly and my time is getting wasted, I'll install some parallel power backing so that even if this happens again, it should not waste my time and the employees and the work should go on. So if it is controllable, I'll take those corrective measures that this should not happen again. If it is uncontrollable, I cannot do anything, and I'll leave it. I have no other choice. So this is what is time booking. Now, what is the purpose objective of time booking? This is the theory part. First is you have to identify whether your workers are properly utilizing their time. Are they wasting the time? Are they properly spending at the time? So it helps in identifying this first. Most important, it will help you in doing costing of each job. How? I just am showing you parallelly the cost sheet. Once you identify the time which the employee is spending on each job, you will use that time in the cost sheet to charge that particular employee's cost to that particular job. Most important, when you are doing this time keeping, it will also provide you the basis for recording the details of the time of every employee. Now, when you record the details of the time of every employee, I'm sure you can see that it will help in ensuring better efficiency and productivity. Because once I know how much the person is spending on each job, if I feel he's spending more time on a particular job, he's doing that work slowly or inefficiently, I can take corrective measures. So by doing timekeeping, it helps me in controlling my labor costs, it helps me in charging labor costs, and it also helps me in taking corrective measures for whatever problems, mistakes I identify. This is what is the main purpose of timekeeping, time booking. Now, how is time booking done? Time booking is done by maintaining time sheets. What are time sheets? Time sheet is a simple piece of paper on which this is written. So you take a piece of paper, this may be pre-printed, you start entering the start time, end time, start time, end time, and you start mentioning the name of the work which you are doing. See, this you can do for your daily activities also. In fact, many times when students come and complain to me, sir, I'm not getting sufficient time to study, I'm not getting sufficient time to complete my work, I do this activity with the students. I ask the student to do this activity for next 1 week. That write every minute of your time in the 24 hours, how you have utilized. So let us say, you will say, I get up morning 6 o'clock. So start from 6 o'clock. You get up at 6 o'clock, what you do after that? What you do, start writing this exactly in this manner till the time you go to bed. Start writing details of each and every minute that you are spending. Do this for 3-4 days, do this for a week. You yourself will find out where you are wasting your time. And once you identify where you are wasting your time, you have to simply take corrective actions to ensure that that time is not wasted in future. You'll suddenly find that you have good time to study, you have good time to do your work, because you identify by doing this time booking that you were wasting your time in unnecessary things, or either you are wasting or either you are doing those processes slow because you were deviated to other work parallelly. Like while studying, in between I'm using the WhatsApp, in between I'm going to Insta, in between I'm suddenly attending some calls. So even though I'm sitting to study or doing my work, it is getting wasted. So by doing this time booking, you can control a lot of your time and convert it the unproductive to productive. Now, how this is done? By maintaining a time sheet. Now, this time sheet may be maintained on daily basis. It may be maintained on weekly basis. These are the variations, but everything is done in time sheet. Also, this time sheet can be maintained employee wise. That is, you can ask every employee to fill in the details, or it can be maintained job wise, where The supervisor of that job will have this timesheet, and every employee coming and working on the job, the supervisor will be reporting or recording the time which every employee has spent on that job. So this timesheet can be maintained employee-wise or job-wise. It can be maintained on daily basis. It can be maintained on weekly basis. So these are the different variations. But the point is, it will be maintained in this fashion only what we saw above. So here, it can be maintained from the perspective of job. Here, it can be maintained from the perspective of employee. So it may be employee-wise, it may be job-wise. So these are the different variations, but time booking is done in the above fashion only, what I just explained. I hope everybody over here has understood time keeping, time booking. Now I'll go to some questions which are there in the chat box. आपकी आवाज बहुत कम आ रही है. Okay. Priyanka, sir, after knowing the time booking details, we get that some hours wasted on non-productive areas. Then how to overcome? I think I have answered that. Yukta, sir, in time booking, we are recording in detail about the day, right, sir? Then what is the need of additional time keep? See, understand, Yukta, both records are used for different purposes. Like when you want to calculate wages payable to any employee, you cannot go to time booking because it is too much detail that we do not want. For calculating wages, for disciplinary purposes, I only want the in time, out time. So for that, I need not go to the time booking. Plus, timekeeping, time booking, both records are maintained separately. It is not necessary that the time booking record will be shown to everyone, because time booking also shows some of my costing details, because that is the time I have spent on different work which will be used for costing. So time booking is more sensitive data, which is more for internal purpose. One is costing, one is control. So that will not be shared with everyone. Timekeeping is a general data which many people can refer to, which will also go to my account section for doing calculation of accounts. Tomorrow it will be even shared with the employee, because if some employee has some argument in their wages calculation, I will share with him the timekeeping record. So this is how timekeeping and time booking have to be done separately. Silesh is saying logbook is maintained. Yes, you can see it is like a logbook. Prem is saying, sir, will the uncontrollable abnormal cost become normal cost in the next costing process? Good question. See, Prem, uncontrollable does not mean that it is normal. What is difference between normal and abnormal, Prem, is what you expect will happen is normal. What you do not expect will happen is abnormal. Like nobody expected that COVID will happen. So it is abnormal. Now, once COVID happens, when now you are revising your costs or you are doing recalculation, now you have to find out, firstly, we identified that it was abnormal. Second, now we have to identify, is it controllable? The answer is no. Once any such thing happens, it will happen and you cannot do anything. So it is abnormal, uncontrollable. But now when I'm doing costing again, now everything has become normal. Now when I'm doing costing again, will I again consider that COVID type of a thing? Answer is no. So it is uncontrollable, abnormal. I gave you a practical example, Prem, but that will not become normal in next costing process. What is normal? Something which is expected to happen again and again. That is what is normal. Smriti is asking, sir, labor hours book will consider idle time also. Idle time means, see, as you are seeing in my booking details, I have to record detail of every minute. Now, when I'm recording detail of every minute, obviously the productive time and the unproductive time both are recorded. In fact, idle time will be recorded so that I can take corrective actions. I can identify if things have happened correctly or not. If it is normal idle time, I'm okay. If it is abnormal, I will take corrective actions. Kiran, sir, where time booking is used, but I already explained it is mainly used for costing. It is mainly used for controlling purpose to identify if the time is correctly utilized by employee. Whatever time is unproductive, whether it is normal, if it is abnormal, then again taking action. So time booking is used for costing, time booking is used for control. Medha is asking, sir, does company actually follow time booking? Very good question. Medha, I'll answer you in simple in this word. Even we are advised, we mean students are advised to do so many things, that you should study in this manner, you should prepare a timetable, you should follow the timetable. Now, the same question I'll ask you, cross question, whether students follow the timetable. Firstly, whether they prepare a timetable. Secondly, do they follow the timetable? The answer is yes, no, both. What is the difference? The difference is between successful and unsuccessful. Same answer is over here for your question, that whether in real life companies follow time booking. all these successful businesses are following all these things that you are studying. So don't think what we are studying is only academic. Those who want to be perfect, those who want to be successful, those who want to ensure that whatever they are doing should give them the best results, they are following all these things. Those who are not following, today, tomorrow, they will perish, their companies will close down, or their cost would be very high because they are not taking correct measures. Fine, Medha? Amod is asking, sir, when any labor is lazy and took more time, will extra time be considered as idle time? See, firstly, Amod, if somebody is doing the work slow, it will not be called as idle because it is booked on a particular job because that much time is written for a job. Now, when as a management, I'm going through your time booking details, I will check both idle time also to find out whether it is normal or abnormal. And when I'm seeing the productive time, I'll see the productive time from the perspective of your efficiency. I think I already mentioned this when I was explaining. When I will record your productive time, that is the time which is booked on different jobs, I will also compare it with the standard time. What is the standard time? In my next lecture, when we'll go to working, you will understand this more. So standard time is the time which I am supposed to complete the work in. So for every work, there is some time which is the standard time. Let us say, as per my standard, this audit work should have been done in 2 hours. Now, somebody took 2 hours 15 minutes, somebody took 2 hours, somebody took 1 hour 50 minutes. So these are the different workers who are having different levels of efficiency. Whatever could be the reason of their efficiency, inefficiency, like laziness or time pass in between checking mobile and going here and there, getting distracted, the reasons may be different. Now, when I will check the time booking and I will identify that these few workers are spending more time, I will then take corrective actions. One, I will try to instruct them. I will try to guide them. I will try to motivate them. I will even give some training if that is required. If despite of all these efforts, I find that the labor is again and again doing the same thing, I may remove the worker and get a better one. So this is how time booking is used in management. I said time booking is used. One is for costing that you saw in cost sheet. Two by management for controlling purpose and controlling both idle time also wherever possible and even the productive time. This is how it is used. Fine, beta. Now we come to the next aspect of labor. Again, a theoretical part, labor cost control. Now, what is labor cost control? You study this control for every cost, like you studied in material over there. One was material control, one was inventory control. Now, generally, whenever we talk about cost control, it is about trying to reduce your total cost. This is general meaning of cost control, that is keeping your total cost within the limit. However, when we talk about labor cost control, my intent is not on improving or reducing my total cost. My intent is on reducing the per unit labor cost. Now, this is a very important difference between cost control for material overheads, these two elements, and cost control for labor. In material and overheads, when we talk about control, our intention is to control the overall cost of material, overall cost of overhead. That is, we focus on controlling the total cost. But when it comes to labor, in labor cost control, our intent is to control the per unit labor cost and not the total labor cost. Somebody saying, sir, please give break. Actually, I had given 2 minutes break. No problem. So we'll first take some break. Since we have already done a break of 2-3 minutes, it is now 8:36 in my watch. We resume at 8:45. Fine. So we'll have 9-10 minutes break. So we resume at 8:45. Let us have a break. explain this. I'll explain what I mean by reducing or controlling per unit labor cost and what will be the impact. Mohammed, you said yes, please, for what? Okay, so students, let us understand this. When we are talking about labor cost control, what is very different from material cost control and overheads cost control is in material and overheads cost, our intention is to control the total material cost, the total overheads cost. However, when we talk about labor, it is more of controlling the per unit labor cost. The question is why? Because as we discussed at the start, labor is the human element in your business. Humans are affected by behavioral issues. We just discussed this at the very start of today's deliberation. Now, when we talk about behavioral issues, please understand one thing. How will you control total labor cost? For controlling total labor cost, you will have to reduce or you will have to limit the wages that you pay to the workers. Now, the moment you reduce or you limit the wages paid to the workers, what will happen? The motivation of the workers will come down. The workers will start getting negative with the organization. Please again feel all these points. I've always been saying you should not study from here. It should start from here, but it should go to here. The moment you start feeling this, understanding and remembering will be easy. So let us say you are working in an organization, you qualify chartered accountancy, you get a very good package of 24 lakhs start, and you reach in a year or two to 40 lakhs. However, now the company's policy say that since we want to control our labor cost, maximum package that you'll get is 40 lakhs. We will not increase the wages beyond that, despite of your improving efficiency, despite of you getting more and more experience, despite of you get. The moment this happens or you get to know that this is happening, what will happen, students, is what commitment you are showing in your work, that will reduce, because somewhere back of the mind, behaviorally, you will feel that since I'm not going to get anything extra, why should I work more? Why should I give my 100% commitment? And the moment this happens, it will backfire to the company itself, because your output, your efficiency is reducing, his total labor cost or is getting hampered. Now understand this point. See, nowhere in entire costing, the objective is achieving anything in total. Our objective everywhere in costing is achieving everything per unit, because ultimately what matters is my per unit price, per unit cost. So when I'm doing costing also, even though we start with total, ultimately we reach to per unit, because what matters to me is per unit price of my product. Similarly, when it comes to controlling, my intent is to ensure that it is happening per unit. It is happening at per unit level. What I will do, instead of limiting the wages, I will say that I will keep on increasing your wages, provided you keep on increasing your efficiency and output. Labor costs, rather, I am ready to increase the total labor cost. But at the same time, I am keeping a target that you keep on increasing your efficiency output. And you are also ready to do that because, again, same motivational issue, motivational reason, behavioral issue reason, that psychologically, when you are said that, okay, you give me more output, I'll give you more wages, you more time, you'll start studying more, you'll start working more on your skills so that your efficiency is increasing. And this is a win-win situation for both the company and you also, because again, going back to my mother formula, if the company says we will keep on increasing the wages, if you keep on increasing the efficiency, what will happen? The numerator is increased. That is labor cost for one product. The units are increasing. What will happen? Maybe it may not reduce my per unit labor cost. My per unit labor cost may remain constant or it may be slightly higher because the numerator total cost or total wages is higher and denominator units is higher. But if I'm able to increase these units, I have many fixed costs in my company. Mainly these fixed costs are mainly overheads. When the units are increasing, obviously these fixed costs will never increase. When I'm increasing the units and why these units are increasing more output, what will be the effect by doing this or following the total cost per unit? Overall, the total cost per unit will reduce, which will be a very win-win situation for the company because the company's competitive edge in the market will increase, its products will be more competitive. The company will be able to charge better price, lower price, and get with the same orders, the company will be able to achieve more. Okay, somebody's saying rather many people are. Just check and let me know if still you have problem with voice. Okay, so I was saying by following this policy, whereby I'm not intending to control or reduce my total labor cost. Rather, I'm ready to increase it with a condition that you increase the efficiency. If this is explaining this part. So putting the message, I have to always pause and see the chat box. Okay, I'm understanding that there may be some network issue. So just certain things. See, this is the best example of normal ideal time. Suddenly the net, there is no option, there is no choice. People are saying can't hear you at all. Is that the case, students? So I'm not clear, not audible. I will log out and rejoin. Is it okay now? Or still there is a problem? Otherwise, I'll have to log out and rejoin. Okay, now perfect. So I'll repeat this labor cost control. So labor cost control is not reducing the total labor cost by reducing the wages. Rather, you will follow this policy where you will tell your employees that I will keep on increasing your wages provided you keep on giving me better output and results. Now, how this will benefit you? This will benefit you because by doing this, when you find out the per unit labor cost, even though the numerator is increasing because you are paying higher wages because the workers are working well, that is also increasing. And once this denominator, which is the total units of output, is increasing, what is happening? Your per unit labor cost, which you are getting labor costs behind 1 unit, either that remains constant because both numerator denominator are increasing, and even if it is slightly higher, still there is no problem because there is one very big chunk of cost which is your fixed overheads. I'm sure everybody of you understand what are fixed costs. Fixed costs are those costs which are not affected by units of production, like rent, like depreciation. These costs remain constant. These costs remain constant irrespective of output. Now, when because of this high labor efficiency, you are able to achieve increase in your output, maybe your labor cost per unit may not reduce, but it will reduce your overall total cost of the product because your fixed cost of the company, which is a very high portion, will remain constant, but that overall the company benefits by this policy. Again, remember, labor is relating to human, that is relating to you and me. You can use as a benefit to the company overall. I don't know why this is happening. I'll do one thing. I'll keep my video off. Maybe this will help in providing me better bandwidth. So with this video off, you just let me know now that whether the problem continues. If it is still continuing, maybe I'll have to rejoin by logging out. And if it is solved, then it would be better. So you just let me know if my voice is still cracking, if my voice is still not audible, so that I will have to then re-log in again. Okay. So this is what is labor cost control, which is targeting more on reducing the per unit labor cost rather than reducing the total labor cost. Because reducing total labor cost may be disastrous for the company because the employees may start working less, the employees may start shifting their productive work because they are paid less. So that works as a demotivating factor. Fine. Now, what are the departments that are connected with this labor cost control work? First is the personnel department. We all know who is the personnel department. Personnel department is the one who are having the responsibility of hiring and training the employees. Second is the engineering and work study department. This is the department with studies which calculates the standards for every type of work. It will also calculate what type of labor is required for each type of work or job. Timekeeping department. Again, how it is concerned, the entire records of attendance is maintained by this. So this is very important because the wages are calculated on the basis of the timekeeping records. And cost accounting is again important because all workings of the total cost per unit cost, the incentives is done by cost accounting department. So these are the different departments which are directly, indirectly connected to the labor cost control work. Now understand this, students. This particular point in materials, when you studied control, as I said at the start, labor and material are different from exam perspective. In material, control was the major aspect from exam perspective. In labor, control is just this much. And it is hardly anywhere required in the exams, but conceptually to understand, it was very important. Now we come to that part of labor which is very important in exams, that is the working part. Now in working part, we already understood this particular part except the net wages. So we understood the charging part of labor, where we understood in cost sheet how labor costs will be charged to every job or product. It will be charged by finding out two things: hours which are booked on every job and the charging rate. And then we studied in detail how labor charging rate is worked out. Now, I will explain you something which is more related to accounting. Actually, this you should study in your accounting subject. But unfortunately, right from standard 11 till date, we never study this in accounting. Accounting is giving us a very simple journal entry of employee or labor cost. But in real life, that journal entry is not complete, it is not correct. So to explain you this, let me give you a real life example so that you will understand this concept of net wages also. Plus, you will also understand the accounting entry. So let us say we are talking about the month of January 2025. Now, my labor records, which I get from my timekeeping department, from my cost accounting department, shows this, that what is my wages, or let us say salary, whatever you want to say. For the time being, I'm not distinguishing between the two. Says that I have to pay them. I have to pay my employee the wages, which includes basic, allowance, and bonus and incentive, rupees 20 lakhs. Besides this, I will be spending on their facilities. Now, what are these facilities? Free lunch, that is free food. Then they're traveling from office or factory to residence. Then I'm also providing some of the employees with stay. Let us say I'm spending rupees 3 lakhs. Then I have to contribute to the Provident Fund. Now remember, in Provident Fund, employer also contributes and even employee contributes. So my contribution to this Provident Fund for this month is rupees 2 lakhs, and the same amount is contributed by the employee. Now, besides this, some employees who have taken loan, I will be recovering my loan amount from these employees. So I have to recover 1,20,000 of loan amount from some employees, obviously, which I'll be recovering from their salary. And then there is TDS, tax deducted at source, is the income tax of the employee, which I have to deduct as per income tax workings and income tax calculations of rupees 80,000. See, students, this is the real life labor entry. You may call it wages, you may call it salary. Now, let us understand this from costing perspective. Let us understand this from accounting perspective. Let us understand this from all perspectives so that you will understand this in totality. Sir, PF from employees also considered in contact. That we will understand now, Mahalakshmi. In fact, now that is my question to you all. I hope you understood that these are the first three figures, which are my cost. These are the figures which are, you can say, employees' expenses or employees' outflow. I hope firstly you all understood this. These three are my outflow. My means employer's outflow. These three are employees' outflow. I hope this is clear. I'm just putting on my video. I'm not comfortable without video because I feel I'm not speaking to everyone. So I'll just put on my video. If still there is a problem, lagging, you let me know. Now see, this is a very small example. There could be many more things, but these are the ones which are very common. So from the real life perspective, from your exam perspective, these are the ones which are generally covered. Now, I hope you all understood everything up to this point. Anybody has any questions on this? We have to understand the costing aspect. We have to understand the accounting aspect, both. Now, here, first thing for costing. In costing, I have to find out the numerator of my mother formula, which is total labor cost to company. Correct? Now, from my costing perspective, in my mother formula, the numerator is total labor cost to company. What will be included? My outflow will be included, whatever I'm spending. So that will, in this example, come to rupees 25 lakhs. So this is my numerator. This I had explained in this example also. So this 25 lakhs is made up of the monetary salary which I'm paying to my employee in the form of basic, allowance, bonus, incentives, commission, whatever is the name. Then it includes the non-monetary cost which I'm spending. So I'm spending on their canteen, I'm spending on their traveling, I'm spending on the stay. And it also includes my contribution to various statutory funds like Provident Fund, ESIC Fund, etc., etc. Oh, Abhishai is saying if I lower my hand, that will also save network. Actually, the problem is it is auto. 1 second. Oh, oh. Let's see if it saves network. Fine. Actually, when I'm explaining, many times I raise my hand like this. So I think auto, there is some auto setting whereby it takes it as a symbol. Okay. Now, so from costing perspective, the numerator which I'm considering in the mother formula will be rupees 25 lakhs. So this is the total cost to company. Now, I also need to find out the net wages. What is net wages? It is the in-hand salary. What is the in-hand salary? It is the salary which you can say will be credited to the bank account of the employee. Now, how much will be this salary? Please understand. See, first monetary figure which I'm going to give to the employee is 20 lakhs. So 20 lakhs is the monetary figure which I have to give to the employee. This I am spending on various facilities. So this is not monetarily given to the employee. It is spent on the employee, but not given monetarily. This also I am not giving monetarily to the employee. So monetarily, what I have to give to the employee is only 20 lakhs. But I will not pay this 20 lakhs because these are the amounts which is the outflow of the employee, which I have to deduct or recover from him or her. So I will reduce from this 2 lakhs, this 1,20,000, and this 80,000. This 2 lakhs is what? This is employees' contribution to Provident Fund. This 1.2 lakhs is the loan which I have recovered from the employee, and this is the TDS which I have recovered from the employee. So, out of the monetary portion of 20 lakhs, I am deducting these three amounts which the employee has to pay. So, after this, what is left? It the net wages or the in-hand salary or the amount which will be credited to the bank account of the employee. I hope you have understood this. So it is coming to 16 lakhs. Students, is this clear to all? Anybody? Any questions up to this point? Because now basis this, I'll go to the journal entry. See, this is the real life accounting. This is the real life labor entry. When you will be doing auditing in your articleship, when you go for audit, you will not find the entry which we studied in our 11, 12 standard like salary debit to bank. That is not correct. That is never an entry you will find. The salary or the wages will be made up of so many items. Now, how will the journal entry happen? Now we come to the main point. First is we debit salary or wages account. Now, this salary or wages account will be debited by the total cost to the company. So what is this total cost to the company? It is rupees 25 lakhs. And what I have to credit is to bank. That is the amount which I have to pay to the employee, which will be credited to the bank account of the employee, which is 16 lakhs. Now, interestingly, you can see that this never matches. However, till now in 11, since 11 standard till date, in accounts, you are passing a single entry, wages debit or salary debit to cash bank, which is incorrect. Why? Because there is a lot of gap between the two. Now we have to fill in these gaps. How? To TDS payable, to loan recovery, to Provident Fund contribution. Here I am considering both my contribution also employee contribution also to canteen or transport, all this payable, because when I'm providing these facilities, I have to pay to all these agencies. Now, how much is the TDS which I am deducting, which tomorrow I'll be depositing to income tax? 80,000. Loan recovery, which will be towards the loan which I had given to you some time back. Now I'm recovering, is this. Provident fund, your provident fund I'm deducting from your salary plus my provident fund, which is included in this 25 lakhs. I'm not paying it to you. Both this provident fund I will be depositing with the provident fund agency. So both this provident fund will also be deducted. How much is the provident fund? Provident fund is 2 lakhs, 2 lakhs. So it is 4 lakhs. And then all the perquisites which I have provided to you, which is of rupees 3 lakhs, these are the perquisites which are my expenses on your behalf, which I have to pay to the caterer tomorrow, which I have to pay to the transporter tomorrow. The house which I have taken on rent, I have to pay the rent. So that will be debited to all these persons tomorrow. So this will be my journal entry. Is it matching or I have missed out something? 639. Yes, the entry is complete. Now, this is the real journal entry that happens every month. Wages, salary debited, 25 lakhs. This is the cost to company also as per costing. This is the net wages. Again, this is also one of the figures which we calculate. That is the in-hand salary which you are getting. And then these are the other parts. Now, what will happen? On the due date of TDS, this amount will be paid by me. So this TDS payable will be debited and it will go from my bank to the treasury of government. So this TDS would be paid. This loan recovery will be adjusted against the loan in my books, which I had given to you. So to that extent, the loan which I have given to you will get reduced. So loan recovery will get adjusted. You can say to loan to employees account. So to that extent, loan given to employees will get reduced. Provident fund contribution, again on the due date of provident fund, I will deposit this amount with the provident fund authorities, and all these expenses, canteen, transport, rent, whatever, whenever the date comes, I will pay to the respective agencies. So this is how the entire journal entry, accounting entry, also linked with costing, is going to happen. I hope everybody understood this whole part, which is the accounting and the recording aspect of labor. Anybody has any doubts or questions on this, please feel free to ask. Students, I'm waiting for your response. This is slightly technical, rather more than technical. It is different from what you have been studying. That is why Kiran is asking, sir, in exams entries asked. See, when a student asks this question, when the student has found that particular concept very difficult to understand, then the student is more concerned whether it will be asked in exams. See, it is not necessary it will be asked in exams. Rarely in 20 exams, one of the times in 20 it may be asked. So it is not something which is very relevant from exams technically, but it is something very relevant for your audit. It is very relevant for your understanding in your CA practice. These entries you will require to understand from various perspective, income tax perspective, from your accounting perspective. So that is why this entry is very relevant. Prem is asking, sir, why don't we take 25 lakhs in labor cost? Beta, we have already taken 25 lakhs in labor cost. See, my expense account is debited by 25 lakhs only, because that is my labor cost. So I have taken entire 20 lakhs in labor costs. But when I paid this to bank is to employee, and then these are to the respective agencies or respective authorities to whom that 25 lakhs will go. So for me, labor cost is 25 lakhs. See, I have debited my expense of wages and salary by 25 lakhs only. Anubhav is asking why we cannot reduce the total labor cost. I think you're asking about control. But the point is, if I reduce your total labor cost, how it will happen, Anubhav? By reducing the wages that I have to pay to you. Now just put yourself in the shoes of an employee. You are a chartered accountant. You are now experienced with 5 or 6 years in my company. And now I tell you, Ki Anubhav, your salary now has reached 40 lakhs, which is the maximum. Now I will not increase your salary. I will control it at 40 lakhs. So I'm trying to control the total labor cost. What will happen, Anubhav? Either you'll switch the company, you'll find a company which is giving you better pay, or you will start reducing your efforts in the company, because psychologically you will feel that if I am not getting paid for my work, why should I work? In that case, the company will be at a loss. If you leave my company, I'll lose a very good resource, and getting a new resource, again training him, and whatever experience you have got, everything will be lost for me. If you continue, but with a negative mindset, whatever output I was getting, that will reduce. So in any case, I will be at a loss. Hence, I will never reduce total wages or total labor. I hope, Anubhav, I was able to answer your question. Dharani is asking, sir, in debit balance, wages 25 lakhs. We have included only wages. Facilities, employer's contribution, but in credit, why we are including employees' contribution? But in credit, why we are including employees' contribution? Because out of 25 lakhs, which let us say I'm supposed to pay to you, what I'm not paying is what is credit. So what I'm not paying is my contribution also and your contribution also, because that much your contribution I have to deduct from your salary and deposit it in PF. Or Dharani, you can understand it like this. I paid you the total salary, you go and pay to these respective agencies. Ultimately, what will happen? What will be left in your hand is 16 lakhs. Now, instead of you going and making payment to all these agencies, the various laws, the income tax law, the Provident Fund Act and all, they have asked me to collect it from you and deposit it to the respective agencies so that it is easy for these respective agencies. So I may have 100 employees, I may have 1,000 employees. Every employee cannot go to deposit these agencies, and these agencies cannot come and do recovery from each employee. So the responsibility is put on me. That is why even your contribution I am crediting, because to that extent, you are getting less amount in your bank. Smith is asking, employee cost in accounting 25 lakhs is different from amount recorded in cost sheet. Sorry, beta. Please understand, Smriti, in accounts and in costing, one thing is common. Labor cost for the purpose of costing is also 25 lakhs, and total amount of wages salary debited in accounts is also 25 lakhs. Total is same. That is not changing. So between costing and accounting, cost will not change. Please understand, whatever is the cost in your account, the same is the cost in costing. Maybe the names are changed, maybe the method of working is different, but expenses, see what is cost? Cost is the expenses which you are charging to your product. These expenses are the ones that you take from accounts only. Prem, how will per unit cost 25 lakhs be divided by productive labor hours? That obviously in the mother formula, when you are calculating your charging rate of labor frame, will divide this 25 lakhs by the productive hours that I have already shown above when we were discussing charging. Why we try to control labor cost per unit? Because see, ultimately, Anubhav, you have to control cost. I cannot let my cost exceed any limits. So I will be controlling my cost, but in order to ensure that I get the best result while doing this control, it should not affect my company negatively. That is why instead of total cost, I'm focusing on per unit cost. This is the point, Anubhav. So students, I hope this part is very clear to everyone. Medha is asking, sir, whether it applies to MNCs or SMEs too. Please understand, students, all these entries are not bounded by company or MSME or SMEs. These are law. If the Provident Fund Act applies even to SME or MSME, MSME, SME has to do that. TDS is applicable everywhere. So TDS you have to do. So there is not way out that only big companies will be passing such entries and small companies or proprietary partnership firm will not pass these entries, because these are labor laws, these are income tax laws, where the law is applicable to your business. You may be a SME, but if the law is applicable to your business, you have to do Provident Fund, you have to do TDS. So there is no way out from that. Anup Kumar is saying, sir, Provident Fund employer contribution paid is debit balance. Why in this journal entry, employer's contribution is credit balance? Please understand better one thing. In my 25 lakhs, I have included employer's contribution to labor. See here, employer's contribution to Provident Fund is part of labor cost, so it is debit, right? Now here, when in credit, I am putting employer's contribution, it is now the amount which I have to pay or deposit with the Provident Fund authorities. So it is my cost. That 2 lakhs, which is my contribution to Provident Fund, is my cost. So it is part of the expense, which is by the name employee, or here it is by the name wages or salary. So from cost perspective, it is my cost 25 lakhs. See, understand, students, whoever is finding confusion, you can understand it like this. For example, we go by your accounting entry. All this I have paid to you. Simple. To bank means I have paid it to you. Then what you will have to do, you will have to go and pay all these amounts to outside agencies. Effectively, you will be left in your bank with 16 lakhs only, because you have to pay income tax to the income tax department, which will be this. You have to come and pay the loan amount to me because you have taken loan from me, or let us say from any agency you have taken loan. You have to repay that loan. Then in Provident Fund contribution, you have to deposit your contribution. Plus, since my contribution is included in 25 lakhs, which I have given to you, you have to deposit both contribution with Provident Fund. So 4 lakhs you have to give to them. And whatever I have spent on your facilities, let us say I'm not spending on any facility, I give you 25 lakhs. I say, okay, you look for your residence, you look for your transport, you look for your food. So by default, you'll be going and paying this to outsider. So let us say I go by your accounting entry, it will be like this, just for simplicity of understanding. So firstly, I'll give you entire 25 lakhs, but then all these amounts you will go and pay to outsider. Correct. So effectively, your bank will have net 16 lakhs at the end of the day. But because of legal reasons, because of all laws that are created, I will not be paying this amount to you. I will be collecting or deducting these amounts, and I will be paying it myself to outside agencies. And the net I will pay to you. So you can understand it like this. I have paid entire 25 lakhs to you, and you go and pay all these amounts. That can be the way to understand it. Exactly, Yukta. This is what I'm saying. So instead of employee doing all these things, which is not possible also, and legally also, law has asked the employer to do. So instead of employee doing all these things, employer will deduct all these things, deposit it on behalf of the employee, and give the net amount to the employee. That is what is, in fact, the reality. Okay, let us proceed. Yes, Medha, this is the only entry that is passed. You're right. So students, now we go to the practical part. In practical part, we have to now understand how to calculate wages and remuneration under different wages and remuneration plans. Now, what are these wages and remuneration plans? Over the years, over past 200, 300 years, since businesses have grown, since the time when at large scale production has happened and people have started employing outsiders. See, earlier when businesses were small, it was limited to the family. They were themselves working. There was nothing significant like employees. But once industrial revolution started, once production started happening at large scale, you required workers who will come and work. Since then, from that period till date, how to make payment to workers are the different types of labor remuneration schemes. Now, these labor remuneration schemes have evolved over time. Some are discontinued, some are still continuing. Now, the simplest way of giving wages to your employee is the simple time rate. So the name of the first plan is time rate. It is also called as time wages. It is also called as guaranteed wages. It is also called as minimum wages. So this is the first way of making payment. How is this wages calculated by this first method? Simply, you will find out the actual hours the worker is present in the factory. This will get from time keeping. Please understand. For deciding the wages, for calculating the wages, we use time keeping. That is an in-out time. So in-out time will give me the actual hours the worker was present, multiply by the wage rate which I have fixed for the worker, which over here is called as the time rate because it is the rate fixed per hour. So let us say in a month, the worker was present with me for 290 hours as per the timekeeping records, and the wage rate which I have fixed for him is rupees 100 per hour, which is my time rate. Then the basic wages which I'll be paying to that employee is coming to 29,000. Now, practically, you will not find the wages being calculated per hour. Now, all employers, for all practical reasons, have converted this to per month. So majority cases, you will find that instead of calculating it on per hour basis, doing all these workings, for simplicity and for administrative convenience, maybe they will fix your basic wages per month as 29,000, and through their timekeeping, they will ensure that you are present for some minimum hours. If you are absent beyond the allowed permissible limits of holidays, then they will deduct your basic wages. So practically, this may not be actually used today in businesses. That is, today in businesses, your actual wages may not be computed using the actual hours. The wages would be computed today or are computed today using the monthly wages. However, the monthly wages is derived from this type of working only. Now, for all our practical calculation purposes, we are given first plan as the simple time rate plan, which is also called as the time wage plan, which is also called as the guaranteed. Now, why it is called as guaranteed wages? Because once I have assured you that I will pay you on the basis of time present, irrespective of how much you have produced during that period, irrespective of what was your output or production during that period, once you are present for these many days or hours, I will make payment of this amount. So this becomes your guaranteed wages. This is also called as minimum wages for the same reason that once you are present, I will give you this amount. So this will be your minimum wages. This will be your guaranteed wages. That is where these parallel words are used. So first plan or first method of calculating wages is the time rate plan, which is also called as simple time rate, which is also called as time wages, which is also called as guaranteed wages, which is also called as minimum wages. Please remember and understand this. So remember these terminologies because in exam, they may ask you any of these names. So you should know what these plans are. Now, the second plan, which is again very commonly used after the simple time rate plan, is the piece rate plan. Now, this plan is also called as payment by result plan. It is also called as payment by output plan. How the working is done? You find out the actual output. A stands for actual, which is write the whole word to avoid confusion. So you find out how much you have actually produced. So your output is in units multiplied by the piece rate, which is again fixed per unit. So let us say in this given month, you have produced 10,000 units of my output. So the production records shows that you have produced 10,000 units. And let us say per unit, the amount which I have fixed is rupees 2.5. This is the amount or the wages I had fixed per unit. Then the wages which I have to pay to you will come to rupees 25,000. So this is what is piece rate plan. We can also call it as the simple piece rate plan. You call it as payment by result, payment by output. So these are the parallel names. Now in this plan, as the name suggests, you calculate wages not on the basis of time the worker is present, but you calculate wages on the basis of work the worker has done. That is, in terms of production, how many units the worker has produced, and then multiplying those units by the per unit wages that was fixed, which is called as the piece rate. Deep Das is saying, sir, can't find this topic in study material. No worries, beta. In the next lecture, I will be also referring to study material. I'll show you everything in the study material. Fine, don't worry. So for the time being, be with me to understand the concept. Yukta is saying, sir, in actual time, normal time, normal idle time is also included. See, beta, when we are saying here actual time, I am talking about the time for which you are present in the company. So obviously it is the 8 hours time. So once you are present in my company for 8 hours, I will be making payment to you of wages of 8 hours. 8 hours is the total time you are present. So it obviously includes the idle time also. And that is where in the numerator, when we are finding out our cost per unit by the mother formula in numerator, when I take total cost, the total cost is also cost for the losses, whether it is material, whether it is labor, because when I'm calculating total cost, I'm calculating total cost for the entire output or the entire value. And then while dividing it, the denominator reduces the normal losses. This is how I find out the per unit cost. So answering your question, whether the actual time will include the idle time, answer is yes. Jayendra beta, price rate, piece rate means where I have decided to make payment of wages, on the basis of the output that you are producing. Like I'll give you example. In case of bricks industry, they will say that per piece of brick that a worker will produce, they will pay rupees 2. Or in case of all these earthen pots and all these things, they will say that per pot that you will produce, I will give you rupees 20. Now here this 2 rupees per brick or 20 rupees per pot is fixed on the basis of the units that these people are going to make. That is what is called as the piece rate, where the rate is fixed per piece. Per piece means per unit of output. Mozi, I have sent this PDF. I've uploaded it. Once it is available on your portal, maybe it will be available in due course of time. You can download this. Don't worry, this is there. Yukta, beta, generally piece rate cannot be applicable to service sector because in service sector, the output is service. It does not have units. It is very difficult to measure the units of service. So piece rate is never applicable to service sector. All this is mainly, see, I have given you background of industrial revolution. So please understand this. This majorly all these wages calculation have been derived or have been made in the earlier periods of the 15th, 16th century. And since then, they have been modified. These are the oldest plans. And these are mainly designed from the perspective of manufacturing industry. In service sector, I have already said, see, this service sector is paying on the time rate only. So where you are taking up job as a chartered accountant, which is a service sector industry, you will be paid on the basis of the time you are present in my company, in my factory. So for service sectors, the payment will never be by output because you cannot measure units of service output generally, right? Maybe rarely this may also be possible, but we are talking about general case scenarios. Actual time, beta, does not mean the time which is taken to complete the work. Nisha. Actual time means the time for which you are present. See, I've used the word present, underlined. So what is actual time? Actual time is the time for which I am present in the company, which is identified from the timekeeping records. So the timekeeping records show me the time for which I was present in the company. In out time difference is my timekeeping, correct? Record, and that is what shows me the time for which I am present. This is clear to all? Students, is this clear to all? Great. So let us conclude our today's session over here. So today we have discussed many aspects in labor. We started from the very basic, then we went to the behavioral aspect, we went to the charging part, the accounting part, the controlling part, and now we have come to the main practical part of labor, that is how the wages are calculated. And in this we discussed that broadly there are two types of methods. One is time basis, one is piece basis. Now in the next lecture we'll continue this with more concepts and more pointers. So that's it from my side for today. Thank you very much. We will connect again in next lecture. Is this wages cost same? It's the message. Somebody has asked, is this wages cost same as labor cost calculated in cost sheet? See, wages, labor is same. Labor is the generic word. Wages, salary are the specific words, right? So yes, Supriya, it is the same. Thank you, madam. Thank you very much. And please keep studying. Please be in touch with your studies, your modules. And next lecture, try to come with the entire module ready. I'll explain this, but how you should maintain this cost copy. Fine. Okay. Thank you all. Thank you very, very much. And let us meet in the next lecture with the practical aspect. Thank you. Sir, session is over. We may close the session.